Hi everyone, welcome back. We're on 8.3 again, but day 5 notes. So as the warm-up, we are just asking you to graph y equals 4 sine times 2x minus pi over 2. So I would encourage you to pause the video, try this on your own, and then check your work once you are done. So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so hopefully your graph looks like mine. The amplitude is 4, the period is pi. Our phase shift is going to the right, pi over 4, and there is no vertical shift. So if you can see the little black dots on there, that was my original graph, and then I just did my phase shift of moving everything to the right, pi over 4. Okay, so here we want to determine whether the equation for the following graphs are in the form of sine or in cosine. And then we are going to find the values for a and b and write the equation of the function. So before we do that, let's just recall that our sine graphs, this is where we're going to be starting at 0, 0, and we reach a maximum, then we go back to the x-axis, we reach a minimum, and then once again we go back to the x-axis. Okay, when we are working with cosine, as long as there's no reflection, we are starting at our maximum. We hit the x-axis, we reach our minimum, we go back to the x-axis, and then back at the maximum, and that's where we are done with one full period. Okay, so in our first example, we are given a point, and that point is at pi over 3 and 1.5. Okay, so I'm just going to start labeling different things that I know. So I know that right here we're at pi over 3. My amplitude is going to be 1.5. So I'm reaching 1.5 and I'm going down to negative 1.5. Okay. From the looks of it, this is looking like a sine graph since we're starting at 0, 0. So I believe this is going to be in the form of y equals a sine of bx. Okay. So I also can just add in a few more points. So at each of the x intercepts as well as the maximum and minimum. Okay. So at the first maximum, I'm at pi over 3. So that means I'm going to be increasing by pi over 3. So right here at the first x or the second x-intercept, I'd be at 2 pi over 3. At my minimum, I would just be at pi or 3 pi over 3. And then I'm back to 4 pi over 3 if I just keep adding pi over 3 each time. Okay, so I know that the period is going to be equal to 4 pi over 3. Okay. My amplitude, we've already identified that, and that is 1.5. Okay, so we know what A is. We were asked to find A and B. So our A is going to be equal to 1.5 since that's our amplitude. We still need to find B. Okay, and if we remember, the period is equal to 2 pi over B. Okay, and I know that that's equal to the period, so 4 pi over 3. So I can go ahead and do some cross multiplication and solve for B. So I would have 6 pi is equal to 4 pi B. If I divide both sides by 4 pi, I'm going to end up, if I reduce that, my pi's are going to cancel, and I'm left with 3 over 2 is equal to B. So just the last thing we need to remember here is to write our equation. So our final sine equation would be y equals 1.5 sine of 3/2 x. And that would be the equation for this graph. Okay, example 2, we are given the point 5, 1. So I know right here is 5. And I also know that my amplitude is 1. So that tells me the period and the amplitude. I am starting at the maximum point. So this is going to be a cosine graph. So I'm going to have y equals a cosine of bx. Okay, and then we also identified that the period is equal to 5, and my amplitude is equal to 1. So I already know what A is. So let's see, I'm just going to write that below. A is equal to 1. So let's identify what B is. So 5 over 1 is equal to 2 pi over B, since that's how I find my period. So then you can go ahead and cross multiply. So 5b is equal to 2 pi. Divide by 5. So we have b is equal to 2 pi over 5. So I know my A and I know my B. So the last step is just to write the equation. So we would end up having y equals, I don't need to include the 1 there. So y equals cosine of 2 pi over 5 times x. Okay, you can also write that as y equals cosine 2 pi x over 5. That would probably be the preferred method. Okay, and then our last one, the point that's given to us is pi over 2, 4. So my amplitude will be 4. Let's just identify a few more tick marks. Okay, this is pi over 2. Right, and that's halfway through this period here. So I know half of that is going to be pi over 4. So then at my next x-intercept, I will be at 3 pi over 4, since I'm just increasing by pi over 4 each time, and then I'm ending at pi. Okay, I am starting at the maximum, or sorry, at the minimum. So since I'm not starting at the origin, this is going to be a cosine graph. So we're going to follow y equals a times cosine of bx. Okay, I already know that the amplitude is equal to 4. So A is equal to 4. The period is equal to pi, because that's where I finish one full rotation of this cosine graph. So pi over 1 is equal to 2 pi over b. Let's go ahead and cross multiply. So pi times b is equal to 2 pi. If we divide by pi from both sides, we've got b equals 2. Okay, now the last thing to notice before we write our equations, we have a is equal to 4, b is equal to 2. Is a equal to 4 or is a equal to negative 4, since there is a reflection here? So since there's a reflection, I'm starting at the minimum. My equation would be y is equal to negative 4 cosine of 2x.